yesterday's game was horrendous, bro. I mean, it was bad. I mean, this one might be one for the ages, bro. I can't even lie. The referees just exposed their hand so bad, bro. I mean, they just didn't care no more. They didn't care. The world was watching how bad the cause was. They didn't care at all. They was going to get their issue off against the Fever no matter what. And I'm here to tell you, that's exactly what went down, bro. I mean, they got their issue off in a major way, bro. I mean, there was countless of times I could literally look at the screen and know that was a foul.
What if I told you that the WNBA's biggest star wasn't being celebrated, but sabotaged? That every time Caitlin Clark steps on the court, she's not just facing defenders, she's dodging something far more dangerous. The whistle. You think you're watching a basketball game, but what if it's something else? A rigged performance where the outcome isn't decided by skill, but by silence. Because what's happening to Caitlin Clark isn't just unfair.
So lads, today the referees gave the report on the situation, and it's even worse. It's even worse than I imagined, and it was pretty grim. Like, it was a pretty grim overall, it was a pretty grim overall.
Watching the WNBA and seeing how things are run, seeing how things are done, and after you've seen what it looks like to get it right, you come in and see something looking really wrong, you're going to call it out. It is what it is. You're going to be critical of players. If they do something shady or classless, you're going to call that out.
It's becoming impossible to ignore. She's not just getting fouled, she's getting targeted, and the cameras caught everything. Missed calls, blatant elbows, zero accountability. Fans are calling it a setup. Coaches are losing their minds, and the league. Radio silent. This isn't just a bad night for officiating. This might be the biggest scandal women's basketball has ever seen. So the question is,
I wanted to share with you guys an article that I found that honestly gives us so much insight into the WNBA referees, how they are hired, how much they make. And there's one section that really stood out to me, and they break down essentially why they are making the calls that they make. And they also talk about the influx of new fans flooding to the WNBA. They talk about Caitlin Clark a little bit. This article to me was really telling. It actually came out in January, but it was published by SB Nation, and it's entitled How WNBA Referees Are Scouted, Trained, and Held Accountable.
Why are the referees treating Caitlin Clark like the enemy? And once you see the footage, the stats, and the silence from the top, you'll understand. This isn't just a game. It's a war for control of the spotlight. It started like any other game until it didn't. From the opening tip, something fell off. Calls were late. Obvious fouls went ignored, and every time Caitlin Clark touched the ball, it was like the refs had an allergic reaction. She drove to the basket, bam, no whistle, took a clean steal.
I mean, you would think with what they say coming into the season, Kathy was made it her business to let them know that, referees is going to be getting assessed for this next season and make sure they're making the right, proper calls. Man, at this point, we need NBA refs all the time, bro. I don't want these YMCA, junior league, high school ass referees, bro. We need real life refs, because as of right now, they're costing the Indiana Fever major games that they definitely need to win.
Whistle. Got shoved midair. Silence. Meanwhile, the opposing team was getting to the free throw line like they had season passes. Fans weren't just upset, they were stunned. Clips of the game exploded online. Slow motion replays showing Clark getting elbowed, bumped, and even struck in the face with zero consequences. And then it got worse. A flagrant foul against her.
You remember how last year started? You remember the lopsided officiating that we got last year? The All-Star break comes around, the Olympic break rolls around, and then what did we hear from Lynn Dunn? Lynn Dunn goes on the Dan Dockage show, and she calls out the officiating. She calls out the referee. She calls out the WNBA. The lopsidedness that is being shown not in favor of the Indiana Fever. The clear biases when it comes to foul calls. The clear biases when it comes to not calling foul calls. Last year, it took us halfway through.
Downgraded? A blatant hit to the face? Somehow just a basketball play. One call after another, the refs kept proving one thing. Whatever game they were watching, it wasn't the same one the world saw. Even the commentators couldn't hide their disbelief. Coaches started pacing like they'd lost their minds. And Clark? She didn't say a word, just kept playing through it like someone who knew complaining wouldn't change a thing. But here's the twist. This wasn't a one-time meltdown. It was a preview of something much darker happening behind the scenes, and what came next would shake the league's image to its core. At first it looked like sloppy officiating, then it started to look personal, because the more you watched, the more it felt like Caitlin Clark wasn't being refereed. She was being punished. She gets body checked mid-play, no call. She raises her arms too fast, technical foul. She breathes too loud in the paint. Apparently that's a violation now. The refs weren't just missing fouls.
Things a little bit holistically. I think Caitlin Clark is a really hard player to officiate, much like Diana Taurasi was throughout the course of her career, for a couple of reasons. Caitlin Clark regularly gets picked up in the full court. She also gets blitzed more over the course of her career than any player in WNBA history or in that period of time. And she also creates some contact herself on the offensive end of the floor. She is very difficult to officiate because of all of the contact that's happening around her all of the time. That being said, I was in contact with a number of WNBA coaches yesterday about this topic of the officiating in the WNBA, and all of them said it needs...
They were inventing reasons to blow the whistle. Meanwhile, her opponents were playing like it was an MMA tryout. Full contact defense, elbows to the chest. One even caught her in the face, on camera, and walked away like nothing happened. The message was loud and clear. We're not protecting her. We're testing her. And Caitlin, she played through all of it. No whining, no complaining. But you could see it. The exhaustion wasn't just physical. It was the kind of tired that comes from realizing the game is rigged before it even starts. Even worse, this wasn't happening in secret. It was national television. The crowd saw it. Social media saw it. Fans were clipping the plays and stacking the evidence like it was a courtroom trial, and yet the league stayed quiet. That silence? It said everything, because this wasn't just random. This was a pattern. One that was about to explode into full public view. And the coach? She finally snapped. Next up, the moment the sidelines caught fire.
By sharing that the officiating in the WNBA became as hot button of an issue as any. Heated debates surrounding the league's physicality dominated the headlines, particularly when Indiana Fever star rookie Caitlin Clark was subject to several intentional fouls. Now, they also brought up Game 5 of the WNBA Finals. We actually made a whole video about that as well, because there were some suspect calls at the end of that game, and a lot of people felt like the WNBA Finals were actually rigged.
Everyone has a breaking point. And for Coach Stephanie White, it came under stadium lights, in full view of thousands of fans. At first, she kept her cool. She paced, she clapped, she shouted instructions like any coach trying to hold it together. But then the whistles kept coming, not for real fouls, but for whatever the refs felt like calling. Missed hacks, phantom violations, blown calls so obvious it was like watching a magician fail a trick in slow motion. And then it happened. Coach White lost it. She wasn't yelling anymore. She was erupting. Arms flying, voice raised, face turning red like she was about to call timeout on the entire league. It was part outrage, part desperation, not just for the game, but for what it had turned into.
It took us 4 games for Stephanie White to say, I've had enough. It's taken 4 games for Stephanie White to say, you know what? I've had absolute enough. Game 1, okay. Game 2, okay. Game 3, all right. But today was the last straw when it came for Stephanie White. The New York Liberty get to the free throw line 32 times. The Indiana Fever this season have a discrepancy minus 31 when it comes to free throws. That doesn't seem right.
Because when your star player is getting shoved, slapped, tripped, and no one's doing anything about it, what's a coach supposed to do? Smile for the cameras? Number Stephanie White turned into every fan in that moment. Furious, fed up, done. And the crowd? They didn't boo her. They roared, cheered, because finally, someone said what everyone was thinking. This isn't a game anymore. It's a hit job in a jersey. She wasn't coaching, she was protesting. It was raw, real, and risky. Because speaking out in the WNBA, that can come with fines, suspensions, and backlash. But White didn't care, because she saw it too. Not just bad calls, but a system that looked ready to break its brightest star. And the numbers backed her up in ways that were downright disturbing. Up next, the data they didn't want you to see. Emotion can be dismissed, but numbers, they don't lie. And these ones hit like a punch to the gut. Let's talk free throws. In one game, the New York Liberty got 32 trips to the line. The Indiana Fever, barely half of that.
That's what the referee said happened. Why was J.C. Sheldon's foul upgraded to flagrant one? In the judgment of the officials, the foul by Sheldon was unnecessary. The contact to Clark's face. Furthermore, there was a wind-up and impact, and the contact to face carries potential for injury. How did you come to the conclusion that that is a flagrant one? How did you come up to the conclusion that it was unnecessary? There was a wind-up, and it was to the face. The three of them that is a flagrant 2. By definition, you have described a flagrant 2.
And over the course of the season, the Fever had a minus 31 free throw differential, one of the worst in the league. That's not just an off night. That's a trend, and when your best player is the one getting fouled the most and rewarded the least, something stinks. Watch the replays. Caitlin drives into traffic, takes body contact, sometimes even gets smacked in the face. Nothing. But touch a player from the other team, and suddenly it's like the refs heard a gunshot. Stat after stat shows the same story. Caitlin Clark gets the least protection for the most contact. And when she finally does draw a foul, it's either downgraded, reinterpreted, or shrugged off entirely. One hit to the face, caught in high def, shown on every sports outlet, was ruled a flagrant one, even though it checked every box for a flagrant 2. Wind up, contact, to the face, potential injury. That's a textbook flagrant 2, but not when it's Caitlin Clark. It's like there's a hidden rulebook, and she's the only one playing under it. And fans, they're watching closely now, pausing the tape, clipping receipts, breaking down every call frame by frame.
The WNBA refs are the worst. They really are the worst.
We gotta unpaint these narratives. They all have heart. All the mannerisms in basketball are the same. This is gonna be the same. Doesn't matter your color, your race, or your religion. That means I shot in your face. This means I'm clapping, I'm excited. How do you make basketball mannerisms about race? Make it make sense. Sometimes we might even push the ref. I'm in the heat of the moment. I'm not a bad person.
Wait, hold up, wait. You be pushing refs, Angel?
Well, I ain't never pushed them, but I've gotten in their face. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause, you know.
Even when you watch the MNBA, I would pray for, and Scott Foster sucks, but I would pray for a Scott Foster in the WNBA. Some of these women's refs, I don't know if you feel this way, Angel, but they have a...
Twitter timelines have turned into digital courtrooms, and the evidence is piling up. If this is what fairness looks like, why does it feel like sabotage? And what if this isn't just about the refs? What if the league itself is built to protect the status quo, not the rising stars? Next up, the article that quietly exposed the system behind the madness. While fans were busy clipping highlights and coaches were losing their minds courtside, one article quietly dropped a bombshell, and barely anyone noticed. Published by SB Nation, the headline seemed routine: how WNBA referees are scouted, trained, and held accountable. But buried inside was a blueprint for why everything was falling apart. The piece explained how WNBA referees are recruited, often from high school or junior league systems, not the NBA, not elite international leagues, just underfunded pipelines with inconsistent training and minimal oversight. Worse, it revealed that most refs in the WNBA aren't even full-time.
I've said it before and I will say it again. The WNBA as an organization is insufferable, and you would be hard-pressed to find another organization that is as committed to self-imploding as the WNBA.
there is no place in basketball for somebody to be poked in the eye, and like then they're saying Caitlin Clark is flopping. In what world is she flopping? Oh, she flailed and she fell over. For crying out loud, that girl, JC Sheldon, should have been kicked out of the game. She should have received a flagrant 2. There's no reason why you need to poke somebody. Listen, I get it. She's playing her hard. She's guarding her. It's basketball. Aside from the viewership and the recordship and the media, it's just a basketball game. I totally get that. There's no place in basketball for like that. These WNBA refs need to fix.
Many split time with other leagues or gigs, bouncing between jobs with no real time to review film, refine judgment, or, let's be honest, fix the messes they're making. And the so-called accountability system? It's a black box. There's no transparency, no public discipline, no review system fans can see. If a ref makes a blatantly wrong call, the league might internally review it, or they might not. We'll never know. And it gets darker. The article also hinted at something much more telling, that the WNBA's recent surge in viewership, thanks largely to players like Caitlin Clark, has flooded the league with new eyes. Refs are under pressure, games are faster, the spotlight is brutal, and they weren't ready. The audience isn't confused anymore, the article read. They're exhausted. This wasn't just about Caitlin. It was about a system buckling under the weight of stardom it begged for, then panicked when it arrived. Because when you bring real fame into a league with part-time refs, a murky rule book, and leadership that disappears at the first sign of controversy, you don't get growth. You get chaos. And when things spiral out of control, guess who goes silent? The commissioner, the person who should have stepped in a long time ago. Next up, the leadership vacuum that's making everything worse.
Lost control of the game.
I said you lost control of the game, and here's what happened is those are refs allowed that type of play to happen. That just opens up the rest of the game to say, do you see what I got away with? I'm going to be able to get away with other things too. And that's exactly what I said. That's a dangerous game. That is a unsafe game for players to be a part of, because it allows for the other team to make some really nasty, maybe.
When a league is burning, someone has to grab the extinguisher. But in the WNBA, the person holding it is nowhere to be found. Meet Kathy Engelbert, the WNBA commissioner, or as fans now call her, the human shrug emoji. While players get hit, coaches rage, and fans demand answers, the commissioner responds with nothing. Not a statement, not a press conference, not even a vague tweet. You'd get more accountability from a magic 8-ball. This isn't new either. Refs have been under fire for months, and every time a controversy hits, Kathy disappears like she's allergic to urgency. It's gotten so bad, fans have started joking that she's running the league from a treehouse with no Wi-Fi. But here's the scary part. It's not just absence, it's what that absence enables. When leadership stays silent, bad behavior multiplies. Refs get bolder, calls get worse, players lose trust, and fans start wondering if the league wants this chaos.
The increased attention this year, there's also been increased scrutiny about the quality of refereeing. Curious if there has been any conversation about whether it's referee pay, referee training, anything to ensure that is as good as it can be.
Obviously, not every, they're humans, looking at technology. Basketball is a little more complex than tennis, for instance, around technology of officiating. So we're looking at a variety of different dimensions. I know it's a passionate issue. Every fan group, I love when I go into market and every fan group I meet with, they usually wait and ask it as the last question of the night, but they do ask about officiating,
Yeah, because let's be honest, Caitlin Clark isn't just a rookie. She's the face of the league. The ticket sales, the highlight reels, the reason people who never watched a WNBA game are now glued to every second. So why isn't she being protected? Why is she getting fewer calls, more hits, and absolutely no public support from the league that's profiting off her name? Bigger, a battle over who gets to shine and who gets sidelined. At first it looked like just bad officiating, then it looked personal. Now it's something bigger, something deeper. Because this isn't just about basketball anymore. Caitlin Clark's rise has collided with a league that isn't just unprepared, it's uncomfortable. Uncomfortable with her fame, uncomfortable with her following, and maybe, just maybe, uncomfortable with who she is. A young white woman dominating a league that's long struggled for attention, representation, and identity.